Welcome to Parenting Trap, episode 23, where Alex and I discuss a listener's question. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at Parenting Trap. We have a listener's question, but before we get to that, we have some really exciting news. We have our first sponsor. We have not had a sponsor yet, and this is our first one.
Yeah, so we have a sponsor this week. It is Paloma Verde, and these guys are they're from San Antonio,
Texas.
San Antonio, Texas.
Carlos and Vanessa,
and they do amazing CBD products.
Yes.
So I don't even think they know this. I was a customer of them before they were a sponsor to the show. This is my old bottle. I've had it for a super long time. And these are the soft gels, CBD soft gels.
They have a tincture, they have gummies, they have soft gels. I've heard they have a new product now, which I haven't tried yet, that has melatonin and CBD oil for sleep.
So if you're having trouble sleep.
They're great for anxiety, for winding down during the day when you have a stressful day with the kids. I know we all have been in that situation before.
Yeah.
Yes. And you get 25% off if you use our
code. PT25. Yep.
PT25. And that's if you spend $75 or more with Paloma Verde and their website. It should be in the show notes, and I think you'll put like a thing on this.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll put that
put that up there.
Okay.
Yes, PT25. You get 25% off if you use our code, and we really appreciate it because it is our first sponsor.
Yeah.
So this is very exciting.
We're very excited about it. Okay.
Now to the question.
Yes.
All right. So the question today is Jack from Florida. He says, my family has been getting settled into our new life in Gainesville, Florida. We love our new location, and we are working to establish a new routine, but we have been having recurring issues with aggression from my beautiful, loving 3-year-old. He seems to enjoy antagonizing and from time to time hurting our old family dog. And sometimes this aggression is unleashed on his 9-month-old sister. I find myself being very emotionally reactive when this happens, which immediately made me think I'm not handling this in a respectful way. What should we do? This is a very great question. Thank you so much, Jack from Florida, for submitting it.
Yeah. That is absolutely right too. I know it is hard not to get very emotional when we see our children. We get invested in their behavior, and it's really hard not to. But if you are, this is great that you're recognizing that you're being reactive towards their behavior, because if you're getting reactive towards their behavior, there is a very good chance that you might not be handling it too respectfully.
Yes.
Because
if you're triggered by anything and you react very quickly, then you're likely not handling it in a respectful way.
Yes, it's very hard. And our children see that. Our children see our behavior very clearly, so they can tell when they're pushing our buttons, no matter the age.
Makes it worse, actually.
Yes.
They see it, and then they continue to do it because it's unsettling. It's very unsettling for a young child to see us lose our cool.
Right.
So oftentimes when they see that, they keep doing it, which actually makes us react even more, which makes them push more. It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
So I would suggest hopefully recognizing that early and trying to stop the cycle.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. That's good that you're recognizing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard. It is very hard. I right now, I also have an almost 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, a little over 2-year-old, and similar issues. This is very common around the 2, 3, 4-year-old age. Kids are very dysregulated, and they react to their own environments harshly, what seems to us very harshly. They seem very aggressive. So when a child is trying to build something, try and play, they have a toy in their hand and their siblings walking up to them, it feels threatening to them. So they impulsively try to stop it. And a lot of times that comes out as aggression or Pets are very difficult because kids want to interact with them, but also they're a little bit rough. And it's an old dog. I mean, old dogs aren't necessarily as tolerant as young dogs, and no dog needs to be tolerant of rough housing. Um, but it can be very, very, very difficult.
Yes.
So, what I would recommend, and something we've mentioned here a couple times, but I don't think we've talked about a lot,
Yeah.
is very important that you have what we might consider a yes space or safe space for your
Yeah.
child, which is actually a spot of your home that is gated off from the rest of the home. If you have two children, you might actually want to have
You need
multiple
to.
gated
You
off.
need to
You need
spaces.
two
If you have
spaces.
2 kids that are mobile, you need 2 spaces.
Yes.
Yes.
So and I understand that you might be thinking, this sounds
a
really
lot.
difficult because I've got a small space, or they already have a playroom. Well, depending on what you have, I would recommend actually dividing up the playroom. You can actually get
A
a
corral.
corral, like one of those like kid play spots.
Yeah.
It was a 9-month-old. 9-month-old is actually totally fine in pack and play still. You
Yeah.
could do a pop-up pack and play in any room, and then have a actual playroom that's gated off for your older child.
You can.
That's
I'm gonna
acceptable.
stop you right now because I found a lot of people suggested when my kids are 21 months apart, and a lot of people suggested I have a pack and play or small corral for the baby, and then the main room was for the older kid. But what I found was the baby, youngest, would get very upset if he was trapped in a small area and my oldest was allowed in the big area. And what I found worked best for us personally is having a small area. We had a corral with gates that snap together for our oldest child. So it would be like an open space that was safe for kids. And then I had a corral in that space, and I would put my oldest kid in there. And that was considered his safe space, and he could build. A lot of the times it was building projects that he did not want his youngest to bother to be near him when he was building, which makes sense because he's trying to build something, and it's like takes a lot for these kids. That's work to them.
And an infant sees that and they're like, "Whoa, really cool tower!
I'm
gonna
knock
go
it
grab
down."
that thing," or they want to. They
Put
have
it in my mouth.
put it in my mouth. They have their own agenda, and that's really
Mhm.
frustrating. If you spend a lot of time trying to do something, and then somebody comes and just like destroys it, you're gonna be really, really bummed.
Yes.
I think it makes sense that they would get frustrated with that. So
Yes.
they
And
deserve.
even if it's easy for you to do, it's not normally. Oftentimes, it's not easy for our kids to do. So if we have our oldest who's building a tower and the youngest wants to knock it over, say the youngest does knock it over, and then we want to fix it, right? And we go in and we go,
okay.
"Oh, let me help you rebuild it." That's not the same because we are now doing something for the kids when the oldest when the kid was doing it for themselves. So it doesn't feel the same. No one likes that.
No.
A lot of people don't like that.
And they see that all that work that they put in is all of a sudden destroyed. And it is. It's literally destroyed.
Right.
So it's very hard, and that's why they might lash out and say hit. And so
you might have better luck if you have a small corral that you put the older kid in with whatever they're working on. And then the younger one can, in my case, and I think a lot of cases, will just stand and watch. And they love it. They love watching their older siblings. So they might be upset that they can't get to it, but they'll get over it pretty quickly. The older one will be happy. The younger one will be happy because they can see it, and you can cook dinner.
And then you
in peace.
Dinner, and
I promise.
Go to the bathroom and maybe have a moment to take care of whatever it is that you need to take care of.
Yes.
Because I think the other thing that we didn't say is alternatively, you would really be present. So we don't necessarily always want to have our children completely separated off.
Right.
We might want them to actually be together, or we're all just hanging out, or you're outside, or wherever you are, or park, and maybe you don't have a corral. And in those instances, you need to just be present. You need to actually be recognizing that your child looks like they're getting frustrated or upset, and maybe they have already kind of started to hit or grab, in which case you need to be there to block that grab and block the hit or the pull or the bite and make sure that both children stay safe, or you separate them. And those
Right.
really are the options. So you got to be present. You really have to be present or separated.
And I would say, to add to that, when you do the block, then it's important to be very neutral or positive
Yeah.
about the behavior that you are witnessing. So if you are blaming the child, like you're being aggressive, then that's not great, because it can cause resentment in the child, and they can internalize that and actually do it
Oh,
more.
yeah.
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 So if you don't want to see that behavior as much, it's really important to stay neutral about it and be like, I'm not going to let you hurt
Yeah.
so and so.
Maybe you even know why, like you can see why your child might have, say, lashed out. Uh, I at most I would probably state the reason, something along the lines of like, "Oh, I'm not going to let you hit your sister. I see she knocked over your tower, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have been here to make sure she didn't knock it over. Or
Hmm.
I wish. Do you want to go into your corral, or
Safe
do you want
space.
to go into your safe space so you can build without her disrupting your work, and allow them to sort of process that, because they don't need the guilt. I think sometimes people ask this question and they really are asking the question of, how do I impress upon my child that what they've done is wrong,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so
That's not our job.
that's not our job, and it might
That's so
seem,
controversial.
yeah, it might sound like we're saying something that's like, what are you talking about? Of course it's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, as a 3-year old, your 3-year old is acting very impulsively because that's the tools that they have. And what you need to do, the most important thing you need to do, is get to the root of why they acted aggressively.
Hmm.
Why did they hit their sibling?
Yes.
Why did they lash out at the dog? Why are they doing these aggressive things that are triggering you? And until you get to that, it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not about changing the behavior. The more you try and alter that behavior just as a standalone behavior, it's not going to solve the problem. What you need to do is set your child up for success. And it could be that you're seeing these issues at a specific time of day, that it's getting close to dinner and they're getting hungry, or you always get back from the park and you sometimes forget to pack a snack, or it's really close to nap time, or whatever it might be. And maybe you don't know, but you should first try to look towards what's causing it.
Yeah.
And once you solve that, you're going to stop seeing the behavior a whole lot.
Yes.
And if you just try to solve the problem from the behavior standpoint,
Yeah.
that's why it recurs. You're
Right.
going to see that recurring of the issue because you're not actually taking away the problem, which is, I'm working on this project. I try to build and my sibling always comes and knocks it over.
Right.
And I'm frustrated because they always try to knock it over.
Right.
And you're not going to get to that
No, and that's a big piece of the
solution
empathy,
otherwise. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
whatever it is that we're trying to correct, it makes sense to empathize with the child as much as possible, because that's how we can get to that root issue.
Yeah.
And that's how we can address it and ultimately solve it
Hmm.
in a respectful way.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
For sure.
And ultimately, it is our responsibility to keep everyone safe. It's our responsibility to
Yes.
keep the dog safe. It's our responsibility to keep the kids safe, both kids
Yes.
safe.
So if your older child hurts a younger child or an animal, it's never that child's fault. I would say it's always the adult's fault. And we need to figure out what steps we can take to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Because the child does not have the impulse control or the maturity to be able to take on that responsibility.
Exactly.
They're already telling you that because they hurt their
Yes.
sibling or the dog. So
They are communicating that through their behavior, and
yes.
that for that child, That's all they have
Right.
is their behavior. And, they're very oftentimes not fully verbal. They can't tell you every single thing that's going on in their head.
No.
And so it's coming out as this behavior, and you might not necessarily even see it coming. It seems like it's coming out of nowhere, but this child's probably building up all of this, anger or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden it comes out as this quick thing.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, that's the joy of parenting, though, because the
yes.
thing is, I feel like this style of parenting is so hard, and takes a lot of work. But once you get it, like you create this amazing connection with your kids.
Yeah.
You really do. And it makes the older they get easier, because then they see that there's not this adversarial relationship that you have with them. There's not this, you did something wrong, I'm going to punish you. If you never start that, if it's always this mentality of, I have your back, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, like, not hurt yourself and not hurt others, because I know that you need help sometimes. And if you keep that mentality and you say that, you exude that, then the child picks up on it. And when they're older, they'll listen. When you say, I can't let you do that, this is a problem, whatever it is, they'll listen, and they won't fight you as much. I really don't think they will.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, those
And
kinds
they
of
also
firm
don't become
boundaries.
sneaky, right?
Yeah.
So, because a lot of the sneaky behavior you get when they're older is, well, I can't tell my parents because
it helps build trust. This helps build trust.
Mm-hmm.
So when they feel that their behavior is not demonized in your mind, they can trust you more with the things that the kinds of, when they're 14 and they're thinking about going out and having a drink with their friends on Friday night because their friends want to know what it's like to drink for the first time. They're going to be more likely to share that with you because you haven't demonized their behavior from the time of them being 4 and on. So, and maybe that's a whole nother thing.
It is,
and I'm kind of like
important.
looking way into the future.
You do, yeah.
But that's what we do as parents. We worry that what we're doing right now might hurt them in the long run. And what I'm saying is, and what we're trying to communicate is, you do not necessarily need to, punishing them at this point, making them feel terrible for what they've done, is actually going to
make it worse later.
Trust.
Right? It's going to erode trust. So then they're going to start doing things behind your back.
Yes.
And they'll get themselves in more trouble later when the mistakes they make are actually scarier.
Yeah.
Right. There's larger consequences.
Yeah. So this is, thank you so much for asking this question. I think this is great. And I feel like we maybe even touched on some things that no one was expecting, but this has been really fun.
So
and
awesome.
We want more listeners' questions
Thank
because it's so much fun.
Yes. Yeah. This is such a great, being a parent is such an amazing journey. Mm-hmm. And we want to help everyone with that. So if you have any questions, submit them to questions@parentingtrap.com. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah. And we'll be back next week.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.